Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm your Congressman, your voice and your vote in Washington, Mark Alford, with this week's Capitol Recap. You know, the past 2 weeks in Congress have been very hectic, to say the least. We voted on 6 pieces of legislation ranging from protecting your Second Amendment rights to reasserting the legislative branch's authority. But today I want to focus on 2 key pieces of legislation. First, House Joint Resolution 44. You know, the Second Amendment is not a random provision in our Constitution. It is a God-given right and foundational component of our Bill of Rights. It was designed to protect the natural right of self-defense and preserve the balance of power within our society. Regrettably, the ATF, through their recent rule regarding firearms with stabilizing braces, demonstrates a blatant disregard for these constitutional safeguards and an overstepping of their regulatory authority. This resolution aims to protect the rights of millions of Americans and to put a hard check on the encroaching powers of the administration's agencies.
Have really 2 significant issues here. You have one, a separation of powers, where Congress's responsibility is legislating and creating laws, not the executive branch, and ATF is part of the executive branch. They are creating literally millions of felons by doing this. People that, if they don't know about this new rule, that they become a felon overnight on June 1st. There's the third one is the fact that we are taking away the constitutional rights of service-disabled veterans because the pistol brace was designed for veterans back in 2012, for service-disabled veterans, really, and for Americans with disabilities too. So are we going to allow that in Congress? We cannot allow that.
Next up, we had the REINS Act. President Biden and his administration have abused its power by circumventing approval from Congress to pass pieces of the radical agenda. In their first year, this administration finalized regulations adding more than $200 billion in new regulatory costs, more than quadruple the cost added during President Obama's first year. That is unacceptable. The REINS Act of 2023 would protect the American people from incurring new costs by requiring any major rule by an administration to require Congress's approval to become law. It would reassert the legislative authority of Congress and prevent excessive overreach by the executive branch in the federal rulemaking process.
Why do we need the REINS Act?
Well, the REINS Act is the largest regulatory reform in American history. This is going to have a direct impact on our everyday lives, from the food that we buy at the grocery to the gas that we put in our cars. Americans spend $2 trillion a year extra on just regulatory compliance. It's a common sense bill that reasserts our Article 1 authority in Congress, putting the power of we the people back in the House where it was originally intended. If we want to really drain the swamp, we have to get rid of the nameless, faceless bureaucrats that are pushing these regulations without our consent. That's why the REINS Act is so important.
Next up, I want to talk a little bit about our committee work this week. We started in the House Armed Services Committee. This week, we marked out the beginning of the National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA. This is the legislation that funds our entire military, and we do it every year. Right now, I serve on 2 subcommittees in the committee, the Sea Power and Projection Forces Subcommittee and the Military Personnel Subcommittee. During this process, each subcommittee is tasked with passing their individual bills, and then next week we'll come together in a big markup session. We'll amend things, we'll pass the full bill out of the Armed Services Committee. The next up, we had the Agriculture Committee. This week, we talked with different university officials from all over America about research funding in the Farm Bill and the involvement and the importance of groups like Future Farmers of America.
I'm a member of the Congressional FFA caucus. My dad was an ag teacher. He led FFA, great organization. I'm curious to know how each of your institutions work with youth development programs like 4-H and FFA to recruit the next generation, to get this, this vibe going in America again, where ag is so important and we need to look to the future. Anybody? Yes, sir, Dr. Engel.
Yes, just very briefly, FFA State Convention on our campus this week, so near and dear to all things we do in our college, and I think that's true at other institutions as well.
And once again, we finished up with more media interviews, lots of interesting things. I'm committed to being a strong conservative voice for you.
Mark Alford is here, Republican from Missouri.
Joining us now is Missouri Congressman and member of the House Armed Services and Agricultural Committees, Mark Alford.
Joining me now is Missouri Congressman and member of the House Small Business, Armed Services, and Agriculture Committees, Mark Alford. So, Congressman, what is the next steps? What are the next priorities?
Well, Cheryl, the next priorities are getting an NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, passed. I want to show you real quick here. This is China. This is what we're going to be facing in 2025, and this is us. With the agreement that was signed off on by Congress and the President now over the weekend, our defense budget is now going to be cut. And if we're facing this increased pressure from China as they possibly get ready to invade Taiwan, we've got to make sure that we have the strongest military to deter that. As you can see, it's been another wild week here in Washington. As we move through another week, I just want to say thanks, folks. Thanks for sending me here to be your voice and your vote. Representing you is truly an honor of a lifetime. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and if there's ever anything our team can do for you to help you out in a federal matter, please do not hesitate to reach out. Until next time, I'm Mark Alford, your voice and your vote in Washington. God bless you. God bless America.